I'm afraid. Svetlana, are you excited to be presenting?
Yes. Yeah, how you hear me?
Very good.
Very good, wonderful. I should rename myself because just a moment.
And the share button is also available, so there shouldn't be any issues. Svetlana, are you okay with pulling up your presentation? Um, can you unmute yourself?
Oh, sorry. Yes, of course. Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, let's share my screen. Так. Мгм. Stop. Maybe I should. Oops. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you everyone whom I know already and whom I don't know yet that you came to this presentation. And first of all, I want to begin from disclaimer. English is not my native language, so you will hear some mistakes, some my difficulties, but I hope that slides and the content of presentation will compensate it in some measure. And how I try to structure my presentation. First of all, we will speak about convergence of disciplines, difficulties and opportunities on this way. We will speak about MIT, Melodic Intonation Therapy, and we will speak about blueprint. Our conference, the name of our conference is Building Resilience, a Path Towards Unity. So exactly the last word, unity, was important for me. That's why our presentation's goals are to talk about the interaction of different disciplines, opportunities and difficulties. And second task is how it can help us. Maybe not in the building resilience, how it said in the beginning, in the first part of the title of conference, but at least the building of more reliability, confirmability, evidence-based music therapy, and we will speak about it on the example of a potential project in the field of music therapy. And here you see the picture. You will see these three circles several times during presentations. And this picture reflects the idea of convergence. Different size of the circles. It's not about that musicology is bigger, musicological field is bigger, and music therapy field is smaller. It's more about my personal experience, because I'm originally from a musicological field, and I worked there a long enough time, and I'm PhD there and so on. And on the screen, you see my interests. I'm very interested in comparative musicology, in comparative historical musicology, in evolutionary musicology, later in bio and neuromusicology. And these two smaller circles, they're like more new for me. Because I began to study at Lesley only this year. So I heard something about music therapy, but I dived deeply and not so far along. And AI is a field which came into my life also not so far away, not so. I think that I learned this field maybe about 5 last years. Again, it's connected with personal events in my life, because I moved in US, my husband worked in this sphere, Stanford is close to me. And here I want to show you two resources which I will cite. So I want to pay your attention to it. First of all, it's Institute for Human-Centered Artificial Intelligence at Stanford. It was founded only in early 2019, but I moved here in 2017, and they worked and they made very interesting presentation in this field for many years. And another meeting, practical conference, which I will cite also during my presentation, it's a conference which was held September 23rd. It was organized by Boston University and journal Management Information System Quarterly. And here you, I didn't prepare yet the handout, but I promised to do it. And if you will be interested, I will send it anyone, because it's open resource. It's open resource. You can go to this page and you can watch practically every presentation. You can have link for every paper. So it's, again, for me at least, it was a very valuable resource. And topic of this conference was managing AI. So it was not only about AI as a such, but how it is used already in different fields. But there are a lot of events, many events in this field, but we will return, to our free circles. So I'm interested in this triangle, but before to move to this triangle, to this small part where all three fields are interacting with each other, let's look to the second part. And I just remind you very basic knowledge about melodic intonation therapy. I'm sure that you know it, but just some words. It's an evidence-based treatment method that uses intoning, singing to improve expressive language. And it is used, first of all, for people with aphasia, but I already saw a music therapist who uses MIT or principles of MIT with autistic children. This method appeared in 1970s, and on the screen you see the names of the parents of the people who created these methods and their first articles. And the main principle was very simple. And you can see that in this publication, 1989, and in many further publications, we will see approximately the same scheme. That it's like intonation contour, it's not notes. And we begin from simple formulas, and instead of speaking them, I love you, we begin to sing it. I love you, for example. It may be different because, again, Office doesn't say us that it should be exactly this musical formula. No, we can use it like it's good for therapist, like it's good for a client. And there are maybe different levels. And if we look at the research, we will see that there are a lot of publications. On the screen, you see only some of them. And most of them were like the work with this population, with this diagnosis, and only after 2014, the time for randomized controlled trials and meta-analysis came. There are not so much publications exactly in this form, but they exist, and it's very, very important. And what we should see, that what we have to say, that even in this publication, what people used people used the traditional approximal contour idea, and people used the protocol for elementary level, for moderate, for medium level, for advanced level, and they tried to do something what was suitable exactly for this session, exactly with this patient. And it's very important because it's like person-oriented therapy, like practically all our music therapy. But in 2021, I pay your attention to the date.
Svetlana,
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there's only one slide that we've seen so far. It's not advancing. So we're only seeing that picture of the three circles right now.
Oh, thank you that you
You're welcome.
said me it. Okay, so I should, how can we fix
It
it?
seems like, yeah, it's just stuck on that
I
one
stop
slide.
share, I stop
Yeah, maybe,
share,
and
and
try
I
again.
will try to begin share again.
Yeah.
And fastly to show main slides. So, dear people, please say me if you have some troubles like this, because you feel that slides are very important, especially with my level of English. So
No, it's fine. That's why I
let's
just
do
wanted
it
you to know.
again.
Because sometimes what you're saying is not what we're saying. So yeah, just try to reshare it.
Okay. Let's try and move a little bit back. So what do you see now?
That's good.
It's good. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's like about musical melodic intonation therapy, first work. It's like about protocols, about schemes, and about here about about verbalized forms of protocol. These slides are about publications, and again, there are a lot of them. And this important slide, if you will want to dive deeper in this, it's like first first publication, which was like a movement to evidence-based evidence-based paradigm. But I want to pay your attention to this article. It's article which was published only very fresh, yeah, and it's valuable in two attitudes, because on the one hand, it works with Chinese Mandarin population, and it's very important because these people speak tonal language. And second, very important moment in this article, that they use not traditional proximal contour protocol. They used notes as an independent variable, because it was an experiment where 20 participants had melodic intonation therapy. 20 participants, all of them were Chinese Mandarin native speakers, and 20 of them had speech therapy, and they compared. And if we look attentively, it's only some examples. At the notes, I don't know how well people can read the note by eyes. So I play you, for example, this line. It will be not in the same octave, but it gives you the understanding how it can sound. For example. And if we look at the rhythm, if you look at the intonation, it doesn't sound like intonation, like prosody of English language and like prosody of most of European language. So it's really important for me because they tried to adjust the melody, the prosody of Chinese Mandarin tonal language. And here I show you another very important article. Its name is like Test General and Acoustic Invariant Neural Representation of Speech Categories in the Human Brain. And the name of article says that it's about like human brain. But if you dive in the article, you will see that all this wonderful work was made on Chinese language, on Chinese Mandarin as well. And I paid your attention to this article because if you look here, cross-tone decoding, you will see that this article is distinguished from other articles devoted how we process language, because they pay special attention to tonal components of the language. And unfortunately, I tried to find the picture where it should be clear shown that, okay, this is the picture how, for example, because in European languages, in Russian, in English, and so on, we use prosody as well. But we use prosody and intoning. We use it to make our speech more expressive, to distinguish when we ask or when we claim something, and so on and so forth. But it's not the same like in tonal language, where different tones can change the meaning of the words, and where the processing of tone is more and more richer, is more wider, and so on. So if you compare these schemes with how our brain of European language person process our intoning, we will see that it will be another picture. But I didn't see the picture where it should be shown very clear. But if you compare just other articles, you will see it. And and now we will move to the idea which came in my mind yet in summer when I first time heard about MIT. That my first idea was, okay, it's good for English language, it's good for Russian, but these approximate contours will sound in every language. They will sound differently. And it's a wonderful opportunity to see how people rehabilitate, restore their language during MIT sessions. And why I called it blueprint? Because of course it's work for the future, for the maybe distant future, but I see this work like very important, and later you will see why. So blueprint is, what if we would have a huge archive of records of exactly MIT sessions with patients who speak different languages, have different forms of aphasia, and maybe not only aphasia, different forms of different musical history, because we can write it in our protocol, in our list of factors which we can use for further analysis. Different age, different sex, and so on and so forth. Even different level of cognitive development, for example, level of IQ, and so on and so forth. And maybe I will return to these slides later. These huge archives, what it requires? It requires records, and records. And something of this is done already, is doing already. For example, in Northrop Robin schools. And second moment, what we should do, the main what we need archive of records. We need that, just do it. But we also need to think over ways of labeling, marking the main thing, what are we looking at this session and how are we looking, why it's important, because it prepares us to the meeting with tools developer. And it requires a strong articulation what and how music therapist does. And here we will face with the problem of tacit knowledge, which we use, but we even don't realize that we use them. And of course, we should use for this record, it would be very important, just subjective scales in the beginning of the session, in the end of the session, and to attach them to every record. And if we will have such archive, at least our own personal archive, and there will be a lot of such small personal archives, but when we will have special tools for analyzing them, because it will be huge data, what is the problem? So later we can pull out from such session a lot of information. And I will return a little bit better. Here, 2 moments I want to emphasize. First of all, it's the problem of archives. What we in musical therapy, I say we, but it's not correct. What I see in music therapy, on the one hand, I see that in the internet there are a lot of different records which shows how somebody works for advertising, for studying, and so on and so forth. So, and it's very important. It speaks us that it's absolutely possible, and it's general trend. We can use it not only for these aims, we can use it for research aims as well. And if we look at the history of human memory, we will see that archives appeared in the epoch of ancient civilization, at least in Roman civilization. And we not always knew how to use them, but people understood that it's very important, that we can go to this archive many years, sometimes many centuries later, and this is very useful. It can give us a lot of information which maybe was not so important for those centuries, but it's important for us. And now we live not only in the epoch when we have written resources, verbalized resources, we have photo, audio, video resources, we have digital forms of storage, and very important, we have developing artificial intelligence for processing of big data, because we just enter in the epoch of big data, but this process is going. And when I thought about all this, I was surprised to hear the to watch the session, the seminar at Stanford devoted to National Research Cloud. Again, this video is here. You can see the link, but even if you just come to the Stanford HAI, you will find it. And people say approximately, I don't want to retell you all this, but it's important that they speak also approximately the same, that we need a huge national research cloud, and we need it for scientists who will have material for work with real cases, and we need it for tools developers, and we need the access to powerful computers. And it looks like this initiative is developing, and I'm glad very much about it. And of course, it raises a lot of problems, and we musical therapists, if we will begin to create such clouds, such archives of our therapy sessions, we will face with these problems. It's problems, ethical problems, it's problems of intellectual property. And there are a lot of discussion. We just should think about it. It doesn't mean my presentation, it doesn't mean that we should publish all session. I think it's not right, but we should collect information in recorded form. And if to speak about AI, it's very intensively developing field, and two main parts of development of AI now are very active. On the one hand, it's work with clouds and data lakes. And now I compare what my husband did 2 years ago and now, and I hear every day that it's discussion about raw data, about cleaning of data, about labeling, and so on and so forth. And what is important, now there are a lot, because it's general problem for many industries, firms, tasks, and so on and so forth. AI can help us with the work, even with the raw data, And second field, and usually it's another people do it, it's the development of AI tools as such. And again, even now, we have a lot of advances, we have a lot of research, we have a lot of tools already in this field. First of all, it's tools connected with brain imaging, with brain analysis, and it's tools connected with speech recognition, face recognition, melody recognition. Again, we have already bad or good different level tools. So we have some instruments already. And it's very important slide from the September conference, where maybe I want to pay your attention to this line, that concept of artificial intelligence is over-moving. It's not something concrete. It's not something concrete. It's a moving frontier. So we music therapy just should have in mind that this opportunity is developing, and we can collaborate with this. And of course, to work with traditional, with high artificial intelligence, it's work for future, because it's, I want to pay your attention to costs. It's very high. It's very high, but we should be prepared. We should be prepared for our future. And how we can be prepared? First of all, we are not the first. We are not the first. There are a lot of other projects. They are not the same, but we can learn a lot from the experience of all the comrades. And we can learn, first of all, what we should not do, what we can skip, and what we opposite what we should do. And here it's again from September conference, and access to this presentation is internet. What we should expect in the future if we want to develop in this field, even if to return to my blueprint, we will have a huge archive of records with MIT sessions. So, but for decoding of the sessions, we should have the meeting of expert in machine learning and expert in our field. It will be difficult. Again, this slide is from the very interesting presentation devoted to the creating the tools for recruiting people. What they say? They say that it's difficult but very interesting process of mutual learning. And I'm absolutely sure that it's typical situation. It's typical not only for the recruiting sphere, and not only for hiring, but it's also important for practically any field. And in this slide, they showed, because it's their slide, that we will go from opposition towards convergence. It will be difficult. It will be useful. Because, why it will be useful? Because experts should to learn more about technology, and developers must learn a lot about preference of users. It was from this slide, in our case, about how we do, because maybe main problem of now is that tools, AI tools, most of them, current AI tools, they are oriented on what, but crucially important is to be oriented know-how. And if to return to our presentation, it's difficult. But why MIT? Because MIT, for me, from my point of view, it's like wonderful opportunity for beginning, because it's more or less stable protocol. I can predict that intonation contour will be different in different cases. Words will be different, but protocol as such, the sense of procedure is more or less stable. It's very important. It will be easier. It will be easier for further analysis. And as a result, I want to return back to this slide. Do you see the slide? Actual test continued? Yeah, okay. So from the content of these sessions, what we can pull out? We can pull out which phrases are used more often and less often, how they are played by therapists in different languages, what is their universal, what is there connected with language, what is there connected with, if we will have archives during a long time, for example, now, 2020s, then 2030s, then 2040s, we will see the development of musical background, musical styles, music which people hear and how they sing usually, because it's very simple, it's very basic forms. Yeah. And we can pull out both from aphasic people and especially from nonverbal children, we can pull out the most universal intonation contours. And to see again, cross-cultural human, how cross-cultural all human these contours are, and how they can be connected with different culture and so on and so forth. It gives me at least opportunity to look at the very, very core of the evolutionary musicology. And if we compare these materials from MIT with people with aphasia and maybe with autistic children, maybe with some another population, because I'm only beginner in this field. And if we compare this with vocalization of babies, it would be very interesting. So what I wanted to share with you, I know that it's like crazy idea, but I think that it's really one of the way for our future. And now I'm ready to answer your questions. Do you want me to stop sharing, or do you want to some, yeah. I try to be simple, but it's not so simple to speak about difficult things.
I appreciate that you have taken all these different interests of yours and started to look at how they may overlap. I mean, just doing that is a great place to start. You know, and you're right, it's complicated, and but you know, that's how people start evolving new ideas. You just put it out there and you start talking about it, you start thinking about it, and lots of what if.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I appreciate that you did that.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. Simply, my idea was that if we will not begin to think about in this direction, we will be like, if we want that something happen, something will happen, we should begin to think in this direction. So I just began to think in this direction. And I understand that there are a lot of difficulties. That's why it's so interesting for me to watch how other disciplines, how they use AI, what is the opportunities, and so on and so forth. But it's an epoch of big data. So I think it's useful to a little bit know about it and to think a little bit about it.
Thank you. I think that was really very interesting, and certainly as somebody who appreciates the Nordhoff Robbins work that they've done and all the recording they did of all of that and how that has been used for years and years to teach people. And now with both Paul and Clive gone, you know, we still have the richness of all that information they collected. And yeah, there are lots of complications, confidentiality, you know, IRBs to get research things through and all of that. But I think it's a great thing to be thinking about, collecting a vast amount of data, musical data, that we can really take apart and begin to think about how does music work a little more intensely. So thank you for putting this on the table. I have used AI just in my own research to transcribe interviews, which has always been a fun experience because it's AI right now is only about 75% correct, although I've noticed on the live transcript on Zoom, it's much better. So I think AI is developing rapidly and it's being used for lots and lots of different things. So I'm pretty excited about that as well. So thank you for this. It was really thought-provoking.
Yes, Svetlana, I have to say, it was very interesting to learn about melodic intonation, and seeing your passion just in this presentation was just interesting and fun. So thank you.
Thank you. And I want to reply quickly to Michelle that maybe Nordhoff and Robbins school was like one of inspiring things for me, because they emphasize that we record, we track the eye contact, we track this one. It's wonderful. It's wonderful example of how people label, how they decide what is important, what we can skip. And again, my presentation is exactly about this one, that then the more complicated is situation, then it's more difficult. So sometimes just to record and save, in not to make it public, but to save for research purposes, it's very important. It's what we can begin just now.
All right. Does anyone else have any other feedback or comments for Svetlana?
Okay, so I want to thank everyone because it was difficult for me. I tried to make it simpler, but I'm in the way. And thank you for attention.
Svetlana, there's another comment in the chat there too. So
oh,
just
sorry.
want to make sure that you see that.
Yes.
You see that from Bridget Benuti. Yeah. Just want to make sure that you see that too. That was interesting for me too, just thinking about how melodic intonation therapy is different with different kinds of languages. I mean, I just hadn't thought about that, and tonal languages yeah, I just like, oh, right. Like, I never thought about that.
Yeah, and I can add that if we will speak about click languages, there are only a few of them. 4 or 5 of them are in Africa, and 2 of them is in Far East. It's another problem as well. And for me, it's like opportunity to learn neuroplasticity of our brain, because for me, it's like miracle. Our brain and our culture and all this diversity which we had during many thousands of years, and it's so interesting. And I think that exactly in such simple things like simple phrases and rehabilitation of speech, it can be it can be narrow but very useful window to see a lot of issues. Thank you, Bridget, for comment. Okay, so thank you all. So see you on the next presentation.
Thank you. So thank you all for coming today. We do have another presentation at 2 p.m. It's a group presentation. And then after that, we'll have one at 3 for Adri. So it's the same Zoom link. So we can end this one and you guys can come back at 2 anytime. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.